Roger Shimomura is very special. Roger Shimomura is a Japanese American who grew up in America. He really doesn't have ties to Japan directly. For instance, he only speaks English. He never learned the Japanese language. But he is associated with Asian American art in such a profound way because of his family's experiences. Roger Shimomura taught at KU for many years, 1969, and then retired in 2004. He's had more than 125 solo exhibitions, plus theater and performance pieces. He's won more than 30 grants. He is a very well-respected person. He's visiting artist and lectured on his work at more than 200 universities, art schools, and museums. And in 1998, he was the recipient of the Higuchi Research Award, the highest annual research honor awarded to a faculty member in humanities and social sciences. During World War II, when Shimomura was a child, his family was interred in the Minidoku concentration camp in Seattle. What he did as a result, and after finding his grandmother's diaries, where she outlined all of her experiences and memories, was he compiled those memories into his art. This is a book called Memories of Childhood. We have the second in an edition of 30. It is a limited edition print book, and this was made at the Lawrence Lithography Workshop, which is now in Kansas City, Missouri. My first memory of life is celebrating my 3rd birthday in camp, and here's his birthday cake. On a sparse table with images of barbed wire outside the window, in an absolutely unfinished room. But this is where the Japanese citizens lived, even if the children or the parents were soldiers in our military. When we moved to Minidoka, all of my friends lived close to me. And the friends are here on the corners, reaching from one barrack to another. The tar paper shacks were cold. They were not well insulated. This is his sister, when my sister Carolyn was born in camp. When I caught the chicken pox, my mom and I had to live alone. He would have been quarantined, of course, so that the disease did not spread. And he's playing with a little mouse because that's all that he had available to him. The waiting lines to the bathrooms were always very long. On certain festive days, everyone dressed up and danced all day. This really is one of the few times in these scenes where you will see the people who live here acknowledge being Japanese. For the rest of the time, they dressed as Americans, they ate American food. They really stressed the fact that they were American citizens. Grandma didn't like the food that we were served in the mess hall. Hot dogs, a baked potato, and she's wanting to eat with chopsticks, which would not have worked. She's also drinking milk. A lot of Asians are lactose intolerant, so the food might have made her sick. One time a friend from Seattle came to visit me while I was in camp. The kids are on opposite sides of the barbed wire fence. I was sad when my Uncle Mitch left camp to go fight in the war. Patriotism was very important to the Japanese who were interred. What's kind of a sad part of America's history is that while all of these people were rounded up, kept in these camps for their protection, none were ever charged with any kind of crime. They wanted to emphasize themselves as Americans. On Christmas evening, Santa Claus came to visit us in the mess hall. Even Santa Claus was imprisoned by the barbed wire. I think that in order to do something like this is a purging of angers, of bitterness, acknowledging what happened. But if you look at the images, there's no real blame, there's no real guilt. I think it's a very powerful book. Our second book by Shimomura that's in our collection is called Mistaken Identities. This is a collection that he did where he started with very famous photographs like Dorothea Lange's Migrant Mother, images that Ansel Adams had shot in his concentration camp photographs. But this is a folio version, so the pages are not bound. And instead of being the typical American people that we're used to seeing in the photographs, Shimomura has interpreted them all as Japanese. So he'll dress them in kimonos, but also have just little elements like the price tag that indicate something about America. His paintings are usually large scale. They will often have an element of a self-portrait in them. And let's take a look at that. This painting is untitled, and it's from the late 80s to early 90s. And it is kind of a composite of all the things that he associates with his own story. Parts of America and American culture you see are this boot, this woman's boot that's very high heel, stiletto heel. And Goofy, the Disney character, is climbing up the boot as a mountain climber. Now he looks kind of concerned about this, but I think that probably was something that he wanted to put in to show just the fear that one might have in approaching a member of the opposite sex, or the tension that Shimomura might have felt as an Asian man who was approaching a white culture. The plane is decked out as a Japanese plane, and it is absolutely historically accurate, but the form is actually an American plane. The center is this pencil being grasped by a woman's hand, and it's an archery glove. So she's almost using the pencil as a weapon. Up here is Donald Duck looking very suave, a geisha, and down here behind the plane you can see the face of a no actor. That's part of Japanese theater tradition. This, I believe, is one of the nephews of Donald Duck. So all of these figures are tumbling and combining into this whole scene. You start looking at all the layers, and it's really pretty fascinating. Roger Shimomura is very special. I appreciate his honesty in his experiences. We had him here to speak at the library when he served as our juror for the printed image a few years ago. And he said, you know, this has just been my life. This has just been my experience. He really did not have a sense of bitterness, even though he has experienced a lot of judgment, a lot of prejudgment, a lot of stereotypical behavior. He said often people are surprised when people find that his English is so good, but he grew up in America, he never learned the Japanese language. He says it's always kind of amazing people's responses when they realize that, yeah, he really is an American. And I think that he is someone who lets us think about what that means and really kind of address that topic in an honest and straightforward way.